Hello and welcome back to the Daily Objective. Today it's gonna be me, Daniel, usually behind the scenes, but today I'm in front of a camera. And joining me today is Gil-ad. He was here also yesterday. Hey, Gil-ad.
Hello, hello. I'm excited to be here again. Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about how Israel gathers intelligence. Big story when the war started is how come Israel didn't know the attack was going to happen. We might talk a little about this later, but today we're going to specifically focus on why Israel can't find Hamas's rocket launchers. So, Gilad, how would you want to start this? You mentioned me before we went live that there are five kind of separate intelligence agencies. Uh, would you want to go one by one, or would you rather uh, say all of them, all the five of them beforehand, and then we'll talk about each individual one?
Okay. So first of all, hello everybody again. I am happy to be here 2 days in a row. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Razi is in the US and is not available. So yeah, I hope this is gonna be interesting to you guys. I have a fair bit of knowledge of the Israeli military as I served in it, and I was specifically in a place in a research body, which means I got a very good picture of what is the abilities of an intelligence force, because the research bodies get intelligence, they're fed intelligence from one side, and the output is all kinds of assessments to the actual operations, to the strategies in the military that needs to decide. So I have a fair bit of information. I hope that you, Daniel, will make sure that I'm not talking about something too tactic, but I'm inviting all of you guys to ask questions in the chat. And if you're watching a recording, also to ask a question in a comment, and we'll know if you guys want more shows that talk about the military or anything specific that comes up to your mind. So as Daniel said, five branches of intelligence, similarly to five other branches that we know of philosophy, but it has nothing to do. So the question that I heard a lot of people asking is, how come Hamas is still able to keep shooting more and more rockets at Israel? So we already mentioned it a bit, some of it a bit yesterday, that Hamas isn't working like a normal army. Like the Air Force from Israel is dropping bombs. How many bombs did we drop? I don't know, 15,000 or something similar to that. How many airplanes do we have? 200 maybe? I think even less are aimed for the attacks in Gaza. We keep using the same airplane again and again. That's not what Hamas is doing. Hamas is using pretty much every rocket launcher one time. It's built for one rocket. And that's pretty easy to do because a rocket launcher is really simple. It's a piece of metal aimed towards Israel, usually dug in the sand. So it was dug in the sand way before the war. How come Israel doesn't know the location of all these rocket launchers? So first of all, if they keep on shooting at us so many times, it means that they have many thousands of rocket launchers buried all over the Gaza Strip. I'm pretty sure that even now, if we're going to take over the Gaza Strip and we're going to, whatever we're going to do over there, we are going to keep find more and more rocket launchers years ahead. There are so many over there. And so let's
So
talk about.
just quickly, to me, from what you said so far, it really looks like almost impossible. I mean, if you have just a rocket launcher in a piece of sand, and when you say they're using these, I don't hit and run tactics, if you want, they just come there, shoot, and immediately go away. Which I might tell a story a bit later about that. I know like a guy who was in the war in Iraq, and they had a problem with this that they couldn't target any terrorists because when they shot rockets at them, because when they did, they immediately went away, and before they were able to actually target specifically where they were not there anymore.
Yeah,
So
so the actual way that they walk, they already have the rocket launchers buried. Don't imagine one kind of rail. Imagine usually 12, sometimes even it's usually in multiplies of 4, so or 3. So it could be 12, it could be 16, it could be 21. All together,
what's the
all
reason for that?
just
Do
to
they
have many shots at the same time, usually to the same target, sometimes not to the same target. You want them to be shot at the same time because then the Iron Dome is gonna find it difficult to work with. And also, they have to go to the rockets before they shoot. The rocket launch, again, it's very simple. It's a piece of metal aimed towards Israel with a rocket on it, but it's going to be covered. It's not open. You want to keep it clean. You want to keep it dry. So just before the launch, somebody needs to go out of a tunnel, go to the cover of the rocket, take the cover off, look inside, see that everything is fine. Maybe use a switch or a timer or something to make sure it's going to launch, and then you go back to the tunnel, and the launch is either by the button or by a timer. So there's lots of this, and we do find, Israel does try to find rocket launchers doing routine times, so it would be able to intercept them before they shoot during a conflict like we have. So the 5 branches of intelligence. The first one, I think it's the most famous one, it's the classic one, it's the human intelligence, right? Like a spy, either an Israeli that pretends to be Arabic, or all kinds of people from the other side that you got them to, for all kinds of reasons, to give us information. That's the human intelligence. In short, it's HUMINT. That's how we call it, HUMINT. And it can't tell us a lot about rocket launchers. Like who knows where all these many thousands of rocket launchers are? There is no one person who has that information. There is not even one file or one book or whatever with all this information, because they keep everything really distributed. So it's going to be many, many, many different units in charge of building it in different areas. So even if you get to a person who works in one of this, and he's trying to get all the information that he knows and give it to Israel, it's not going to be a lot of rocket launches, or it's not going to be a lot of tunnels even. It's not going to be a lot of one thing, because they keep everything distributed. So human intelligence, HUMINT, can't help us a lot with rocket launches. Second thing is it's the least cool intelligence, that's open source intelligence. You can open up the news and you can go to the Hamas website or to their Twitter feed or to the Telegram feed, and you can see what they say about what they do. You can see videos of them training. And actually, in this part, in the OSINT, in the open source intelligence, there was a lot of information before the attack that something is happening, that something is cooking. Like Hamas released videos of their commando troops simulating attacks on Israeli towns in like simulation bases within the Gaza Strip. That was published online for everybody to see, and there were people who saw that and were kind of trying to ring the bell. Guys, something is happening.
Why is Hamas doing that? Like, why is Hamas? Like, I can understand Hamas maybe publishing like the atrocities they do to invite terror, but why would they publish their like training or maybe tactics?
Yeah, I think a lot of it got to do with the fact that they need to show themselves, to show the combatants of Hamas and the citizens of Gaza that Hamas has got it, that Hamas is doing something, that there's a reason that so many resources are going to them, because they are ready to attack, they are ready to cause damage to the bad, ugly evil Israel.
So is it to basically market themselves towards other, let's say, Islamic nations, so they support Hamas?
And to themselves as well.
Mm.
Like, Hamas is an organization with I think 40,000 combatants in the military part of it. They need to fuel themselves emotionally, spiritually, in some way. They have a corrupt philosophy. So the way to fuel themselves is to see that we are going to do damage to the Israeli devil. Look at us, look at the commando forces. They are ready to do something. So they publish stuff like that. Um,
So, and also talking about this open source, one thing, so I was scrolling through TikTok videos and I found like a video, it was something like, oh, Hamas or like Gaza doesn't have oil, and they like check Google Maps and show like oil, like tankers or like cisterns, or I don't know how to refer to it. And it was actually like IDF or Israel TikTok account, which I was surprised by. Is like something like Google Maps even used? Like like can,
yeah, yeah,
is that part of this like open source intelligence?
everything that you and I can get access to without hacking to anything on the public web, even Google Maps, is open source intelligence. But usually it refers more to the actual stuff that they post, the actual information. Sometimes it could be, I don't know, interviews that a channel had in a Hamas base, and you're gonna get access to a camera walking around in the base, and you're gonna see stuff. I assume that much of the information that Hamas had over the Israeli towns, where is the police force, where is the like the weaponry, what areas should I control, how do I open the gate, where is the power switches of the entire town, stuff like that, they found in open source information when they gathered intel about Israel. There's a lot you can learn from it. So it's the least cool because each one of us literally can have access to it, but it can tell an organization a lot, both for Israel about Hamas, about any other nation we need to protect from, and vice versa.
So you'd say it's more effective than the human intelligence?
I didn't say more, I just said very, very, and it's a bit more difficult because how much information is there out there in the web? So much.
Mm.
So, and how valuable some stuff can be valuable. But what are you gonna have? Like, I don't know, tens of people listening to the radio and watching TV shows. Most of it is not gonna be valuable. But anyway, that's the second branch. So we had human and we had OSINT, human intelligence, and open source intelligence. And then we have two branches that are connected. This is the signal intelligence. So one of them is not so interesting, but I'm mentioning because I'm mentioning all of them. It's the electromagnetic intelligence. And the other is the one that is really interesting, communication intelligence. That's the emails, the phones, the data systems, all of that is under COMINT, communication intelligence. So the one I mentioned before, electromagnetic, it's mainly used for navies and air forces as they are tracking the radars, the electromagnetic signature of all the devices that the enemy uses to launch rockets, for example. So if Israel is going to have a war with Hezbollah or with Iran, we are going to use a lot of ELINT, a lot of electromagnetic intelligence, because they do have anti-plane missiles that they shoot, and each missile like that is only shot after a radar recognizes the plane. So there's a lot of that. But Hamas luckily doesn't have any anti-jet fighters, missiles to shoot at us. So there's no use of radars, but communications. Any organization, even whatever organization that you work with, there's so much data that is being communicated by phone, by emails, by data system, by all sorts of electrically communicated stuff, and also by radio. In probably not in the organization that you work with, but in Hamas and also in the the IDF, we use a lot of old school radio. Yeah, so it's like a huge unit in Israel. It's the Israeli NSA in a sense. It's called Unit 8200. Gathers a lot of mostly this information. A lot of people who speak Arabic, who listen to it, who translate it. All of it, after very initial processing, gets to the research bodies. That's where, again, I served. I've probably almost never heard a conversation of somebody on the other side talking. What I got emails in a closed system of the military, in an Outlook application. I get an email. The subject is the topic of the conversation. You double click and you see the translation. If you want, you can see it in Arabic, but I've never spoken Arabic, so it didn't help me. And in this way, many people together at the research body build the picture. And
So,
back to our question.
Just quickly, I'm very much a layman, but like, does Hamas use like a coded language, or
Yeah, like even if they talk on a radio is pretty much like the assumption is that if you use a radio, somebody is listening, because it's not really coded in the way like it's easy to listen to it,
yeah.
but they do have code names for everything. So many of the conversation that I remember looking at, all weird, funny code names that you're not sure what they mean. Maybe they tell you it could be this or that, but you don't really know. So they used code in that way in everything that they talk about. Always in the movie, every operation has a funny name. Even now we have a war with Gaza. It's called Iron Swords. There's a code name for every operative, for every like military plan, for everything. There's a name, and sometimes you don't know what's the meaning of the name, even if you intercept some information about it.
Yeah, just quickly, the reason why I was, maybe I'm cutting you off too much.
No, sure.
Like from what I understand, Hamas seemed to have like very decentralized structure. Like you mentioned the rocket sites, like separate groups know of separate sites to shoot from. So like no one person knows everything. And I was wondering if with this maybe like coded language, if that is like centralized, or if also that is like very much like every group uses different signals or like different codes for maybe even the same things.
I'm sure there's a lot of layers of distributed kind of code names and stuff, but I don't know too much. But your question did make me realize that another real distinction between us and between Hamas is that pretty much every bomb that the Air Force drops right now is signed by the chief of staff of the Israeli army. Like, not literally signed. It doesn't approve each one of them. Like, the point is that he's in control of everything that happens in the Israeli army right now.
No, he takes
the responsibility. What?
He takes the responsibility, I guess we would say.
And it's not only taking the responsibility, is if he wants the Air Force to stop shooting, he can do, or to shoot more, he just gives them the order and they're going to do it. He's connected. There is a connection between this entire structure of the Israeli army. But that's not the way that Hamas operates, especially not in regard to rockets. They don't have to give them exact, like the high commanders, they don't have to give them exact commands of where to go and what to do. It's pretty much, they know that they can go and they have the entire plan written down and they work like an algorithm. I bet that right now there are hundreds of different groups of like shooting squads in Hamas, and they just have a notebook and it says Sunday at 8 p.m. you go to code name of this and this rocket launch. Monday at 7 a.m. you go to a different one. And they're just working as an algorithm. And that's, again, not the way that the Israeli army operates. But back to our question, how could communication intelligence give us the answer of where are the rocket launchers? So in theory, the best way is going to be to find a file that they have, maybe one of these notebooks that is probably saved on some, document on some closed network that they have. And hopefully it's even going to have locations of the rocket launchers. But the first problem that I bet many of these units doesn't keep any file like that, because they know that anything electronic is sensitive. The second thing is that it's very distributed, like we mentioned many times. So even if you do get to a file, it's going to be a file that is very partial. It's going to be, I don't know, 1%, maybe. I'm throwing a number. It's going to be a tiny percent of the actual rocket launches. So it's just not very efficient. So we had 4 branches: human intelligence, open source intelligence, electromagnetic intelligence, and communication intelligence. Do you know what's the last one? You kind of mentioned it, Daniel.
Oh, did I? When did I
Kind of.
mention it?
You,
I'm trying to think.
it's
Maybe
also a classic. It's a classic.
Oh, spies.
No, spies is
Oh,
human. Spies is,
okay, that's humans.
yeah. So the classic is pictures from above, visual intelligence, or VISINT. So why I said that you mentioned it in a sense, you were talking about Google Maps, right? You were talking about the satellite photos that you can use Google Maps to see pretty much for every spot in the world. So yeah, it's open source, but it's also VISINT, gives you eyes on everything. But while Google Maps doesn't give you such a good resolution, the kind of information that a military like Israel has is like super clear, super cut. Many in Google Maps, for example, when you look at a spot, I'm not sure that for every spot you can look at past pictures. For the Israeli intelligence forces, you can pretty much for every spot in a place like Gaza peel it off and see layers upon layers of pictures from, few times every day for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years or something like that. So that's the kind of information that we have over Hamas. That's the kind of information that we have over Hezbollah, because Israeli airplanes and satellites also fly above Lebanon and above the Gaza Strip pretty much whenever we want. That's not the kind of information that we have about Iran, for example, because Iran, we only have satellites. We don't have an airplane that can fly above it with like the best sensor and get like really, really accurate pictures, even from different angles. So how could we use VISINT, all these pictures, to recognize rocket launchers? So that's the crazy thing. We don't have the force to actually track every point in Gaza with like live video. We don't have the personnel to do it, and I'm not even sure that we have the technological ability to film live video of all of that. But we do have the technology to get a lot of stills, and that's why you can just look at 2 different stills. Maybe they have a couple of days between them, maybe they have a couple of weeks even, and you can try and see if something is different in the earth, if maybe something was dug. So that's the kind of, because
go.
What I'm trying to make clear is that every time that they have built a rocket launcher, they had to go outside. I'm talking months ago or years ago. They had to go outside. They had to dig a hole. They had to put it inside. They had to cover it. They had to, it's a whole construction thing. So Israel is and did try to find all of these basically rocket pits that they shoot from. by comparing different pictures and trying to see if something was changed in the ground. You're never gonna see the actual rocket launchers, because every time before they work, they're gonna have like a shade dome or something protecting it, so you can't see it from above. They're often gonna be working at night, where it's even more difficult to get visuals of anything. Like the sensors don't operate as well in the night as they do in the day. And yeah, so I bet the IDF has lists of many thousands of these pits, of these possible places where maybe there's a rocket launcher. How do you actually know if it's there? You can't. So the crazy thing to know about some of the things that Israel is, I bet it's doing, I know that it has done so in previous conflicts with Hamas, it just bombs many of these rocket launchers. I'm using quotes right now, if you're only listening, because maybe it's a rocket launcher, maybe it's a donkey that somebody buried. You don't know what happened. You just saw some difference in the ground and you said, maybe it's a rocket launcher. So I know that in past conflicts, Israel, out of not being able to actually go there and overwhelm Hamas, was just dropping very expensive bombs on possibly mostly, dead donkeys or whatever, all kinds of suspected points.
So we only have a couple of minutes left. So first, let me thank Bonnie, Kale, and John for their super chats. Maybe just one quick question with this, because you mentioned it's a lot of pictures, so it requires a lot of manpower. And just a quick question, because what's in right now is the artificial intelligence. Do you know if like Israel or IDF or this intelligence are using, or if it's even possible? Because you said it's like it's you, it's such a small differences. It's hard to tell. Do you know of anything like that? If it's
I don't know.
possible?
I'm sure that they are using a lot of tools like that, but it's very limited because it's so sensitive, because it's so contextual. So it can. I bet that a lot of the work that those like soldiers that are looking at pictures they do after they get a notification from the AI program
Mm,
about a suspected point, and now they are going to look at it. Every bomb that drops is gonna actually have eyes of a real person looking at
mm,
the information beforehand.
right.
But I bet that they do have a lot of AI involved.
Okay, I had a couple more questions, but we're really out of time. Anything you'd like to say before we go out?
That I really wished to talk about the three kind of legs of the general strategy that the Israeli army has, and I did not. So I hope that we're going to have another conversation about Israel's military. So if you are interested about this kind of stuff, you guys out there listening or watching the recording, please comment. Let us know. So we're going to have more shows about these kind of topics.
So you heard him. Like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, send your super thanks after the show. We'll be back in about a minute with our reality show. Posting the YouTube link in the chat. And and also thank you. I'm not sure if I thank Jonathan, but thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Tassos, for your very generous $20 super chat. Uh, so we'll be back in 1 minute, and hopefully we'll be back with Gil-ad soon. Thank you, everyone, and bye bye.